Hey guys, it's Crypto Mary. She does it all, a little bit of everything. I'm going to read this information for you. Anybody who's been in school taking loans, I think it will be a great thing for you to get that information. And I know from personal experience, it will help. Trust me, because I used to go to school to become a nurse, registered nurse, and thank you to the Biden administration. They actually pay for the loan that I had on them, and I'm thankful for that. So let's see what it says. The latest on Biden erasing for the student loan. It says the Biden administration's recently announced it will forgive roughly $500 billion in student debt. Up to $20,000 in debt will be forgiven for Pell Grant recipient and $10,000 for other borrowers. Borrowers whose income was under $125,000, $250,000 if married, and either 2020 or 2021 are eligible. I believe this is a great thing, and it can't get any better than that. It's amazing to hear that. It's not easy to get yourself educated, and if the government can do something to help you, oh my God, that's amazing. Okay, let me see. The Biden administration recently announced it will forgive roughly $500 billion in student debt. Up to $20,000 in debt will be forgiven for Pell Grant recipients and $10,000 for other borrowers. Borrowers whose income was under $125,000 to $150,000 if married in either 2020 or 2021 are eligible. In its fact sheet, the White House explained its objective. It says it wants to target relief on low and middle income borrowers, particularly black borrowers, borrowers who didn't get a degree, and those who have defaulted on their student loans. There is no doubt that these borrowers struggles to most with their loans and represent the most disadvantaged group of borrowers. Well, I'm glad they noticed that. Excuse me, it's a big help. Hence, it's important to understand how well the debt forgiveness policy targeted relief to these groups, both to evaluate whether it achieves the state objective and to inform the design of future changes to grant and loan programs that are intended to help low and middle income groups pay for college. What elements of the debt relief policy benefited borrowers from low-income households, black borrowers, borrowers without a degree, and defaulted borrowers? How much did the relief cost in federal budget terms for Pell and non-Pell borrowers? How much of the total budget of the relief was spent on each group? Guys, while I'm recording, the neighbors are playing their music. Please forgive me. I hope you are not able to hear that music behind the thing. But I have work to do, and they have right to enjoy themselves, especially the weekend is coming. So please forgive me ahead, okay? To answer this question, I draw on publicly available data from the Department of Education, the beginning post-secondary survey 2004 to 2009, which asked a representative sample of students who started school in 2004 questions about their demographic and economic backgrounds, their education statement and use of financial aid, including federal loans, over the subsequent 12 years. It's probably the best available survey of student loan borrowers relevant for understanding the recent debt relief policy, although it doesn't include information about borrowers' post-college earning. Because the data from PBS includes information on both Pell Grant receipt and federal student loans, it offers insight into one of the most important design elements of the debt relief policy, distinguishing between Pell Grant recipient and borrowers who didn't get Pell Grant, and providing more relief to the former than the later. Pell is a means-tested program's eligibility is determined by the strict income and asset test or participation and means test programs while students are undergraduates. That means virtually all Pell recipients are from families earning less than 60,000 a year, and most earn much less. Black students are twice as likely to qualify for Pell grants, and then white student. Let's see what it says here. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going too fast. Yes, too fast. It says black students are twice as likely to qualify for Pell grants than white students. Hence, Pell eligibility is a highly effective way to target financial aid to disadvantaged groups. Indeed, technocrats in Washington, including me, have argued that concentrating student loan debt forgiveness on Pell Grant recipients would be an effective and coherent way to provide relief to those who need it most. Okay, let's see. In contrast to Pell Grant, federal students' loans are not means-tested. Students of any income can qualify. Students do need to fill out a free application for federal student aid, FSA. I've seen it. If their income or asset are too high, or if they are graduate students, they are ineligible for a Pell Grant, but remain eligible for students' loans. In other words, by definition, borrowers who have federal student loan but have never had a Pell Grant were either too rich to qualify for Pell Grants as undergraduates or choose not to apply for financial aid. Okay, good for them. Leave it for the needy. The person who needs it, let them have it, okay? If you can afford it, you should not be able to get that. If you're a Nepo baby, you have your mommy or daddy in the business, come on. Let somebody else less fortunate get it, okay? The table below use the PBS data and information from the White House fact sheets to compare the amount of relief, my estimates of the cost of that relief, and the characteristics of the borrowers in each of the two groups. In total, the policy discharged about $500 billion in debt. Of that, 72% or $360 billion was owned by Pell Grant recipients. While Pell Grant recipients could have gotten up to $20,000 in relief, the actual average amount of relief they got was about $13,300 because many of them own less than $20,000 and many less than $10,000, which is good. Moreover, the $360 billion in forgiveness for Pell Grant recipients did not cost the government $360 billion because most of those loans were never going to be paid in full and present value, which is how loans are accounted for federal budget purposes. More than a third of Pell Grant recipients, for example, have defaulted on their loans within 12 years of enrolling in school. They represent about 90% of all defaulted borrowers. Drawing on data of borrowers' payments, Catherine and Yanelis estimated that the lowest earning 40% of borrowers will repay in net present value only about 0.45 cents of each dollar on. And the table, I assume more conservatively that Pell Grant borrowers will repay 0.70 cents on the dollar. In that case, the budget cost would be about $250 billion on a per borrower basis. That implies the policy costs about $9,260 on average over the 27 million Pell Grant recipient expected to benefit. Okay, that makes sense. Considered as a standalone policy, the relief provided to Pell recipient involved a modest budget cost, and it affect on boosting inflation will probably be small. It is cost effective in the sense that it provides significant debt reduction per dollar of budget costs. In contrast, borrowers who did not receive Pell Grants rarely default, have higher rates of loan repayment, and pay more in interest because they own unsubsidized undergraduate loan and graduate loans, which carry the highest interest rate and thus are expected to repay more than $1 per each $1 in debt they owe. For those reasons, the cost of forgiving $140 billion of their loans is likely much closer to $140 billion. On a per borrower basis, that means the cost of providing $10,000 relief of the 16 million borrowers in this group was about $8,750. In the other words, the administration spent roughly the same amount per borrower on Pell Grant recipient as it did on other borrowers, even though Pell Grant recipients are from the much more disadvantaged backgrounds. How disadvantaged? The table describes the characteristic of two groups. Pell Grant recipients are more likely to be poor, have worse educational outcome, are more likely to be black, income from less educated families relative to other college and graduate students, and the broader U.S. population. For example, Pell Grant recipients were 23% black and 17% are Hispanic. Only 23% had achieved a BA, a bachelor degree, by 2009. 5 years after first enrollment, 55% dropped out without earning any degree or credential. Oh wow, that's crazy. That is crazy. Let's see. They are disproportionately from poor families. 42% of dependent Pell Grant recipients' parents were in the bottom of 25% of the income distribution when they started college, and almost none are in the top quintile. Few of their parents had either a BA, 28%, or graduate degree, 11%. They are a substantially disadvantaged group. Okay. In contrast, borrowers who had never received Pell Grant are relatively affluent both in comparison to those who receive Pell and to average American household. Only 6% are black and 7% Hispanic. 83% are white or Asian. Their parents are well educated and affluent. 55% have a BA and 29% a graduate degree, which makes them twice as likely to have a graduate degree as the average American. 38% grew up in the top 25% of the income distribution and only 3% at the bottom. And they are much more likely to have completed a BA. Almost 60% completed a bachelor degree after 5 years of enrollment, which is above average for U.S. college students. And all 70% earn a credential of some kind of, including an associate degree or a certificate. On takeaway from the table is that the aggregated dollar amount of debt relief provided can be misleading indicator of how much is spent per borrower. The $20,000 of relief afforded to Pell recipient costs about the same amount on the per borrower basis as the $10,000 in relief afforded to the non-Pell Grant group because of the differences in how much Pell students own and their expected ability to repay. A second key takeaway is how effective means testing is at identifying and targeting disadvantaged groups. In fact, 89% of all black borrowers and 84% of Hispanic borrowers have received a Pell Grant. Pell borrowers represent 90% of borrowers in default, and 79% of the dropout were Pell Grant recipients. It's tough. It's really tough, man. It's tough. And 79% of all dropouts were Pell Grant recipients. If the goal was to help these specific groups, why not spend all the money on them rather than spending it the same amount on non-Pell Grant borrowers as Pell recipients? Looking ahead, Biden has proposed a substantial increase in the Pell Grant, which would increase the number of the middle-class borrowers who are eligible. Because of how the grant is calculated and reduce Pell recipients' out-of-pocket costs for college and reduce or eliminate the need to borrow. As the table shows suggested, that aid is well targeted to students without the family means to afford college upfront or ability to repay afterwards. At the same time, Biden has also proposed expanding the generosity of the income-driven repayment plans for future borrowers, so many of them will repay less than they borrow. Many of the benefits and a large share of the cost of that plan will accrue to borrowers who have not received a Pell Grant, like undergraduate debt relief policies. That relief will not be progressive and will cost more and benefit more advantaged groups than other important spending programs do. If you ask me how I feel about the whole thing, guys, why don't they make it free for every children here in America to get at least an associate degree to a bachelor degree for free? Once they're done with that, then they can work their way to get a master degree. This is America, for peace sake. Why do you have to get yourself in debt? I have heard there was doctors, lawyers that been in debt for 20, 15 years, Once they graduated, they are working on whatever, major they had. Now they have to focus on paying debt instead of having a family. They cannot afford to have their family, having children, because they're focusing on paying debt. It's just not fair. This is America. Change the rules, change the future. They need to be educated. The children need to change America. We need to have them educated. Look at President Obama. If we do not educate our young youth, how can they become president? How can they become lawyer? How can they take care of this country, period? Again, let me know how you feel. I know it was a long video, but it was well worth it, because if you've been there, I have been there, and the Biden administration helped me pay for my school debt. So I'm thankful for that, and whoever can qualify, go for it. May God bless you. Subscribe and let me know how you feel. Bye.